Welcome to the Expect Success podcast, where we highlight real estate as an investment and speak to professionals who make it happen every day. Today, I'm joined by Arthur Lyons, who has a unique story about one of his first big wins in real estate. I'm going to let him introduce himself and his background because he does have a background in real estate, but he decided to make the leap into multifamily. So, Art, let you take it over.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as a guest. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I do have a background in real estate, part-time. This is my first year of being full-time real estate. Previous to that, I was in the healthcare space, overseeing and operating nursing home and rehab facilities. That's a passion of mine to help the elderly. And then the other passion was real estate. So I was always working on that part-time. I started off wholesaling, which I think is a cornerstone or a good starting point, because that teaches you how to find deals, off-market, pocket listings, evaluate deals, and really source the best deals that are out there. And then I got into fix and flip, buy and hold, private money deals, and always was interested in apartment buildings, would be a consumer of content when it came to podcasts, YouTube, books, and things of that nature. And it wasn't until I found a good mentor, couple of mentors in the apartment space, and invested in myself, that now I could say I'm a full-time apartment real estate investor as of this year.
Has a good sound to it, doesn't it?
It sounds amazing. Feels amazing. I'm still on cloud nine.
Well, that's what we want to start off with. I want to jump straight into your recent win, what you closed on, how you found it, the deal that you closed on, the size, the location, total purchase price, whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from Philadelphia, PA, first of all. And I learned that sometimes the market you live in could be a good market to invest in, sometimes not. And with technology and everything that we have at our fingertips, you shouldn't be constricted to where you live if you may or may not live in a good market. I don't want to say what markets I think are bad, but there's some more expensive markets like West Coast or LA or Manhattan. You may not want to invest there. You may want to invest in other places. So the first deal I found was actually in Alabama. I found it through off-market strategies that I had used in single family with wholesaling that also applies to apartments. And that was running a list from my favorite list source, PropStream, and having a virtual assistant who lives in the Philippines just call the list to try to get direct to sellers. She called the list. She got a seller on the phone. He was a little ornery at first, but she was able to get a sales price out of him of what he was looking for. And it was 9 units, $275,000. Now I like to pause there because there's no way that I could find 9 units for $275,000 in Philadelphia. But because I went to a different market, you can get that per door price. So I listened to the recording. She sent me the message that he was interested in selling. I called him right away because I was like, $275 for 9. I knew it was a potential deal just from the phone call. I called him twice that day, no answer. Twice the next day, no answer. Called him like 7, 8 times, couldn't get in contact with him. So I went to UPS, sent him a letter with logo, a nice, crafted letter that was warm, professional, letting him know to expect a phone call from, my number. And I spent the $12 to go ahead and send him a letter with a tracking number, thinking that he needed another touch point and maybe to see that I was credible. I called him the next day later, got him on the phone. We start negotiating. I was already happy with the $275 price, but I just asked him, I said, can you do any better? And I got the price dropped down even further, sent the contract, and that's how I found my first off-market apartment deal.
That's awesome. You pretty much blew through the next question, which is to walk us through the real world process and how you found the deal and what was involved earlier. No, that's totally fine. That's good because I've heard part of your story before, but you're going a little deeper, which is exactly what I wanted. So that's good. All right. So you went through those steps, you jumped through those hoops, you did not give up, and you kept persisting when it, from all accounts, seemed like a dead lead. We always hear that the money is in the follow-up, and most people don't go beyond 1, 2, or 3 follow-ups. You went well beyond that. So at what point do you start to feel like this might be the deal that you close on? So you already did your due diligence, you had the conversation with the owner, and it progressed. So where did it go from there? And when did it hit you that this would be the one?
Yeah, that's crucially important because you can't give up when you get these lists, you have to keep cultivating them. And if I would have taken him not answering the phone that first 5 times and marked him off as not interested, I would not have this deal right now. Until I get a hard no from somebody, I'm going to keep pursuing it. Even when they say no, I'm probably going to follow up again until they curse me out and tell me not to call them back or ask to be put on a do not call list or leave me alone. And even then, I'm going to put them on the follow up in a year list because you just never know. Properties are sold one way or the other. Most properties out here are going to change hands. So you just have to be persistent. So once I knew this was a deal and I ran the numbers and I learned how to do so through coaching and mentorship, I have to give a shout out to Coach Chris, who I believe was a guest on the podcast as well. And REI Accelerators was very beneficial in helping me put together those pieces to get the deal done. The exciting thing about this deal is that I didn't bring any money to the table.
Zero, no money at all.
Not one red cent.
Okay.
Not one red cent. And I walked away from the closing table. Initially, it was supposed to be a check for $60,000, but I walked away from the closing table with a check for $42,000 in my pocket by wholesaling the deal to myself. Now I have to unpack that a little bit so that people
absolutely. Let's not gloss over that. Let's dive deeper into that as well.
All right. So I would already was transparent with the purchase price. It was $275 is what he wanted. I negotiated that down to $245,000. Once I sent the agreement of sale, I flew out there along with my contractor from Philly. We flew out there together. We lined up like 20 contractors that were there that day, interviewing them. 3 roofers, 3 painters, 3 carpentry, 3 of like everything, so that we could start to put our crews together out there. And then I had a couple of referrals from friends so that a few of the people that I met weren't complete strangers. They at least, 6 degrees of separation or somebody who knew somebody that had good referrals. Got the inspection. The inspection came back that there was some slight termite damage on the property. Initially, I heard that word and I got a little worried. But once the termite inspector came out and the home inspector said, no, it's not that serious. Alabama is known for having some, termites or wood infestation, but it wasn't catastrophic, just a minor fix. And then I found that there were some electrical issues. A couple of the units needed new electrical. So I went back to the seller and renegotiated again. I did not hesitate. I had already got them down to $245. But now I said, hey, there's termites. There's termites in this place. Did you know there was termites? It's like, no, there's termites. I'm like, yeah, we're going to have to do termite remediation. And most people, when they hear termites, they think it's kind of a big deal. Long story short, I got them a seller to give me a seller credit for $21,100 to cover the termites and the electrical. So now, essentially, I got the purchase price down to $245, another $21,000 off of that. So I'm all into the property for about $220. So now that creates enough space for me to wholesale it to myself, because when I found a lender, the lender was willing to lend up to $440,000 for this property for the acquisition and the rehab costs. I didn't need that much money, so I added the $60,000 wholesale fee on top of the purchase price, which took it to $305. Then I had that seller credit of the $21,100. So at the end of the day, once that was all ironed out, I didn't have to bring any money to the closing table. It was covered by one lender that did 80% of the after repair value, one private money lender who I borrowed $25,000 from towards closing costs and everything. And that allowed me to walk away from the deal with $42,000.
Wow. Okay.
I know I said the mouthful there.
No, not at all. What I got from that, it sounds like you need to start your own podcast called Art of the Deal.
Art of the Deal. I like that.
Well, again, and knowing your story a little bit and hearing you go through it and sharing it in messages, I know you ran into a few other snags along the way. What are some other challenges that were unexpected that you had to take on during this process as well, besides the termites and things?
Sure. I know how to spot good deals, and I know how to get deals under contract. I did not know and had to step out on faith with how I was going to pull this together initially. One of the things that you need when you're getting into apartment complexes is the banks want to see that you have a track record in apartments. So I have a track record in single family houses. I own some single family houses. But when I go to a bank to try to buy an apartment complex, they're going to say, show me your balance sheet and show me that you own apartments. They're not going to really care that you own single families. But the way you get around that is partnering with somebody. And this is one of the things that I've learned through coaching and through self-education. I had to find a partner who had experience or could show that they own apartments. But the thing is that once you find the deal and the deal is strong enough, so in this case, I'm like, hey, I got this property for $220. It only needs about $130 in work, and it's going to be worth $1 million after. People are going to come to you. They're going to come to you with money. They're going to come to you to partner. So that was the first thing. I had to find somebody who would sign on the loan with me.
That was your loan sponsor?
My loan sponsor or my guarantor or my key principal. Okay. Yeah. Those three phrases are kind of interchangeable. And then initially I was going to raise money for the deal. My thought process was I'd raise all of the money, the $245 for the purchase plus the rehab. And I had already started raising money before I found the deal. It's another key component. Don't wait till you find the deal to start to talk to people, let them know what you're doing. You have to kind of prep for that in advance. And so I had been hosting monthly real estate investor meetups. And at those meetups, there were different skill level people there. Some people were brand new and just wanted to invest. Some people wanted to buy themselves and be owners. And when I say invest, I mean passively. I'm like private money lenders. But 6 months prior to me finding this deal, I had been hosting monthly meetings. And every month I would just tell them what I have going on. Hey, I'm calling on this list. I have VAs calling. I'm looking for deals. I'm looking at Alabama now, and keeping them abreast along the way. So once I actually found the deal at the last dinner, it was just a matter of me. I really wasn't even looking for money. I was just sharing my experience. And once I told them the numbers on this one, people at the dinner were like, well, how can I invest? And I was like, well, yeah, you can invest. How much are you looking for? At my last dinner, after I found this deal, I had $125,000 in commitments to invest in this apartment complex. And once I kept that going, I got it up to about $256,000 in commitments to invest in the apartment complex. And that was just from talking to people, just letting people know what I was doing and being enthusiastic about it and knowing that I had a good deal. So that was one of the first, one of the first struggles. I'm not going to call it a struggle. That was one of the first opportunities for success that I had to work through to get to the other side. So yeah, so that I also shopped it in front of probably 10 different lenders, hard money lenders, bridge loan, just to shop for the best terms. And then ultimately I did a combination of financing through a hard money type lender and a private lender that brought up the gap in the cash. So yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take a little step back, because you said you started off raising capital before you had a deal. And you mentioned that you started a meetup. And then you said dinners, which I know you were hosting monthly dinners. But let's back it up just a little bit and go a little further with the dinners, how you thought of that idea, what made you put it together, and what you presented. Like you said, you were just going through your experiences, but walk us through what those dinners consist of and how you got the people to join the dinners and how you conducted them, if you don't mind.
Sure. So this was my transition from single family to multifamily. In single family, I was part of a group in Philly, a local investment group. And no matter what city you're in, they're everywhere. You could just Google your city and local RIA or local real estate meetup group. And, if you're interested in real estate, you definitely have to find, in my opinion, a tribe of people that you can network with, bounce ideas off of, give referrals, get referrals. Don't go in thinking that you're going to, and I'd hate this term, pick everybody else's brain. I know it's used sometimes, but if you think about it, that's a pretty invasive phrase, like to pick somebody's brain. and it feels that way sometimes. If if you're a person that just is taking, and you're not giving value back. So I would say definitely join a group. So the single family group that I was in Philadelphia, actually called Better Than Success, I had been in that group for a while and always giving back to that community, receiving and giving back. And so what I did was I just let people in that community know that I'm now transitioning to multifamily. If anybody's interested in meeting up, for coffee or dinner, let me know. A few people raised their hand and said, yes, we would like to. And the first dinner started off with 6 people and everybody paid for themselves. I didn't pay. I invited people out to commune together, but they paid for themselves. And we had a topic. That first one, the topic was just why multifamily, and we talked about it. And then it kind of progressed to the next week. I brought a special guest with me. I brought a broker one time, commercial real estate broker. I brought a lender one time. I brought a property manager one time. And then each dinner kind of took a different topic. And each week, more and more people came. Started off with like 6, ended with, last one was 20. Next week, I have one. It's going to be 40 people.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 40 people. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. It was just saying, hey, who's interested in meeting up about multifamily? And it started with 6 and it kind of went from there. And again, I was not an expert by any stretch of the means. I did have some knowledge, but you don't have to feel that you're an expert to start it. All you have to do is, where a few like-minded people are coming together and talking about it, you could start just like that.
That's awesome. And you hit a lot of very good points, because when I heard that you were hosting dinners, I was thinking that's a substantial investment, starting off without having a deal and going through that. And you just explained that they all pay for themselves. And the other thing too is, a lot of people, when they hear about starting off a meetup or some kind of networking group, they feel like they have to be the subject matter expert. And that's, you very eloquently put, you don't have to be. You just have to bring people together and introduce experts in certain fields and have everyone grow together. One thing I actually spoke on earlier today was consistency with your networking group or the group that you're in, because it starts off with, like you said, picking someone's brain or going over different topics and trying to see how you can work together. But after a while of you guys getting together so often, it stops being surface level conversation. Like, well, what do you do? What are you working on? And it starts going into who has taken deals down like this, who has moved the needle forward, and what resources can we pull to help someone else with the same thing. So that's just something you really spoke to what I've been doing actually recently. So now the
compounding effect of meeting with the same 4 people week after week. Not only is your topics increasing in depth, but your relationship is increasing. You get to know each other better. You're talking about the kids, and people invest with people that they know, like, and trust. And by coming out and being consistent week after week, they become friends and extended family, and they're more likely to invest with you.
Absolutely. I think you just kind of gave away the secret sauce there with networking. It's not about how many groups can you be, how many people can you meet. It's how you can actually make genuine connections. It starts off business minded. What are you working on? What are you doing? Again, surface level conversations. But once you get into it, you start to know the people. You go a little deeper and you actually have much more meaningful conversations. So that's been my experience for sure. And just to have someone else solidify that, that's perfect. All right. I wanted to ask you about after you close the deal. The goal is always to learn as you go and implement what you've learned, but the whole time you never stop learning. So as soon as you put pen to paper and you close the deal, was it smooth sailing, or did you run into other issues as well?
No, I had a few issues and kept learning along the way. First of all, that feeling was one of complete excitement. I now felt that my apartment investing career had launched, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but even since then, I now have another one under contract, a 20 unit, and looking at closing another 60 unit. But after this first 9, now comes the buying it is one thing, but executing the business plan to make sure that you hit those returns is crucial. So one thing that I learned recently, being my first time investing in Alabama, is that they're not prepared for snow. So I had some delays with construction, with renovation. My contractor called me and said that they're not working today because that happened this week and last week because they have like an inch of snow. I'm from Philly. We've had at times 8 feet of snow. I'm like, what do you mean you can't work because there's an inch of snow, a little bit of ice.
That's nothing.
I see you driving a truck. Like, what's going on? He had to educate me. He said, no, it's like a state of emergency down here. People don't know how to drive. Our city doesn't have salt. It doesn't have plows. People that do try to drive, in some southern states, there's even been fatalities just from an inch of snow because of people just not used to it. So that was a learning lesson. Another lesson was my property maintenance contract with my property manager. Trying to save $1, I told my property management company that I did not want their maintenance services. My thought process was, I have my crews out there anyway. If there's an issue, I'm rehabbing the facility anyway. Well, I started getting my first maintenance requests from my tenants already, also during the cold. A tenant didn't call me. Tenant called the property manager late at night, said his heater wasn't working, that he's freezing, and he needed it to be fixed right away. The property manager emailed me. Now, if I had signed up for their service, they would have also just went out themselves and fixed the heating issue and just sent me a bill. But because I declined that service, they just notified me that the person's heat's broken and now it's on you to fix. So now I'm getting my first call, and, I'm a very involved person with my stuff in Philly. What I wanted to do was hop in the car, go over there, make sure, call who I had to, make sure the tenant's good. But what I had to do instead was call my GC, who was only hired to renovate, not necessarily respond to tenant requests. Like, hey, can you do me a favor? I know we didn't have this under contract or in agreement yet that you would handle tenant issues, but I got a tenant who I can't let sit through the night, without heat. And so the lesson there was, I might have, trying to remember the phrase, skipped over the dime to I might have tried to save $1 instead of, if I just went with that maintenance contract, I wouldn't even have to worry about it. But instead I'm on the phone with the contractor, seeing if I can get a last minute heating repair guy out there and that sort of thing. So I'll probably switch my contract back over to where my property management, handles that. And then also just the timing of the rehab. Once you close, you want to be able to hit the ground running like ASAP. Every day that you have a payment is money that eats into your profit. And I know I close right before Thanksgiving. I think that I would change the timing of closings on future apartments as well. Because once you hit Thanksgiving, and then you only have a couple weeks, and then you're running into Christmas, and then you're running into New Year's. I just didn't like that I had so many holiday breaks from the time that I closed. I felt like there was a delay, and
Okay.
I'm going to just keep that in mind with future closings, because those interest payments are going to be due no matter what, whether or not you have 3-4 days for each holiday, in there, or have that negotiated with your crews that they're going to work through, not be off the day before Christmas, day after Christmas. And then I think this year it fell on a Wednesday. So it's like 3 days during the week. There's a Wednesday or a Thursday, like 3 days during the week, a couple times in a row that I lost. So just little things like that you learn along the way and can adjust for.
Absolutely. And that heater didn't care what holiday just happened or didn't happen.
No.
And how soon did you run in after closing? How soon did you run into that first service call?
My first service call was 2 weeks later.
Literally 2 weeks later.
Yeah, the first service call was minor. It was, my doorknob on the bathroom is loose. There's mold on my tile in the bathroom. I'm thinking, we'll clean it. Like, you're the one that. So the other one was minor, and then the heating one actually got 2 calls on it. One was just like last week, and then one was a little bit before that. So we're only in January now. I've only owned it since late November, so had about 2 or 3 service calls already.
And Art, I think it's really important for people to hear the unknown pitfalls or situations, as it would be, because it is a lot of work to take down your first deal. It's a lot of back end work. But as soon as that ink dries, now it's go time, as you mentioned, to execute the property management plan, the value add plan, and make good on the return to your investors and yourself. So it doesn't just stop as soon as you sign. Like now you can sit back and put your feet up. And with that, I wanted to ask you, you already kind of alluded to it. What is next for you? Where are you going with this? Because you've already started looking for other deals, already have a deal under contract. So clearly you were not slowing down.
Yeah, bro. I had a moment of celebration. Then I had that moment of, okay, here we go. It's business plan time. And then I had the moment of, this is 9 units. This is not getting me to where I need to be. I need many more doors, but at the same time, I was okay with adjusting the business plan to get a small win. I was always looking for 150 units, 100 unit, and those don't come as fast. So I adjusted my strategy to go ahead and take down the 9. Once I did that, now I found a 20 unit. It's under contract now. Hope to be wrapping that up and going to closing. And then right behind that, evaluating a 60 unit. So my goal for this upcoming year is 400 units total, myself and partner. I've also launched a fund called Invictus Elite Fund with 2 partners. I'm actually in Vegas now at a fund launch event, $15 million fund that's going to help to invest in multifamily assets in Dallas, Houston, and Atlanta with a wellness focus for tenants. So meditation rooms, spaces that are convenient to decreasing stress. So that was the first step, and I see what's possible and excited that I'm going to be closing on another couple deals here shortly and launching the fund.
So instead of sitting back, relaxing on a beach, which you actually were on vacation last time we spoke.
Yes.
Which isn't a bad thing. You are aggressively going forward, and I was going to ask you about the numbers and doors, but you already answered that. So you're aggressively going, you have your game plan set, and you know exactly what you want. That is how you get things done. You have a clear vision and you execute on it. And as soon as one peg gets knocked down, you move right on to the next one. So I think your story is definitely a testimony.
Yeah, I have to point this out. I'm good. Because I don't want to make it seem that this was like easy, piece of cake, I, this time last year, I was in a full-time job working 60, 70-hour weeks. I had a vision of being full-time real estate. I wrote it on my whiteboard that I wanted to do it by February 2025 is what I thought I wrote. My business partner later pointed out, because we share the same whiteboard, he said, you know why you don't have a job now? Because I did end up being laid off from my career. And he said, you miswrote on the board February 2024. And lo and behold, to make a long story short, I was laid off from my job, thrust into full-time. It was not easy, but I believe that money is a spiritual thing. I've learned entrepreneurship is a test of your faith, and it wasn't easy. Like I was out here grinding, and it took me about 7 months of hunting for a deal before I found the deal. So I also don't want to make it seem like I picked up the phone today and found the deal today. That was 7 months of me getting no's, sending LOIs, of struggle, of having to test my resolve, of having to really have the faith of a mustard seed, of pushing through to then finally get that breakthrough. And it happens at different paces for everybody. You might meet somebody that did it in a month. You might meet somebody that it took a year or 16 months, but you can't stop. If you stick to the script, follow the key performance indicators. If you're new to this, you will succeed. And, it wasn't easy. I mean, I went through, and I think this is important. I tell the bad part. I went through not having a job. I went through kids losing health insurance. I was on unemployment for some period. This is somebody who was making good money, working in healthcare operations, and conditioned to have that safety of every 2-week, check to a unpredictable real estate cash flow cycle. But these are some of the things that you have to push through to meet your goal. And some people will have it easier than others, but just to let you know that it wasn't a cakewalk for me.
Absolutely. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to you so badly and do this, because your story speaks to a lot more people's situations than you probably realize. And the word you use is the exact one I was going to use, resolve. It takes a lot of resolve to make it across the finish line. And not only, now we're into mindset. So you went through a lot, tested your resolve, and you made it across the finish line, and you did not rest on your laurels and say, okay, I'm done here, or at least let me take a breather. You immediately picked right back up and started moving forward. And I think everything about your story, your situation, and how you overcame those obstacles really speaks to your character, but also your vision, because you can have a vision and lack the motivation and character and not carry through with it. And that is very inspirational. And just a side note, I am from Philadelphia as well. I've been in Florida for 27 years now, so I'm definitely a Floridian. But I know the reason for me mentioning that is in the community I grew up in, real estate isn't taught as something that we can do, that we generally can do. We always hear that it's reserved for people with big bags of money, that it's passed down to them from their parents, and you have to be lucky and maybe fall into some money and possibly do it. And we're always taught, buy a home and let it appreciate. But you obviously stepped outside of I'm assuming here, stepping outside of your environment and your conditioning in terms of what's possible, and just said, this is what I'm going to do, and made it happen. And I think it's inspirational from beginning to end.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to give a shout out to my mom and dad, who, they always had the vision, right? Didn't quite know how to put it together when it came to real estate, but they always knew that this was a way to go. And the contrast between them having an idea that they want to get into real estate and how they would have had to go about finding a mentor versus how I could find a mentor in 2 seconds, and information and knowledge. So they put that in me. And then, the time we live in, there's really no excuse for anybody that wants to meet any kind of goal. I mean, ChatGPT will break down anything for you, and then just find the right person to kind of handhold you to walk through, and it can happen. But yeah, definitely didn't have a silver spoon, and just applied. And mindset is talked about a lot, and it becomes kind of a buzzword, but I can't even articulate and start to dive into, you are what your mind can envision, and you can do. I mean, we hear these words that you can do anything you put your mind to and such, but it's such a spiritual connection. I think vision is something that God gives us, and our mind to be able to see things and achieve them is so crucially important. Once you get that part and it clicks, it's up from there.
That's awesome, man. That's definitely awesome. Again, that's why I wanted to so badly to speak with you and get your story out there, because you speak to a lot more people than I think you understand. Now, Art, we went over your story and everything. What is the best way for people to connect with you, follow you, and just stay abreast of your journey?
Yeah, I gotta do better with social media branding. If there's any weakness, it would be that and taxes. So I gotta get better at both of those things. But I'm on IG at Focused, FOCUSED REI. That's probably the best way right now. And then, follow that and stay tuned for some other ways you'll be able to connect with me. But right now, on IG at Focused REI.
Absolutely. Stay tuned, because clearly Art is not stopping anytime soon. So I know I'm going to follow and be a part of the journey as well. I want to thank you for your time today. I know we went a little over 30 minutes, but everything was definitely well worth it. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And just remember, with a game plan and consistent action, you too can expect success. Thank you so much, Art. Thanks for your time.
Thanks again, Erik.